Hello, Management 125. This is a recording of the Zoom we did this morning, and so I took out the photos of everyone. I actually forgot to start the recording at the beginning of the class, so there were just a few things that I went over that we didn't capture in the big recording, and so you may notice a little bit of a break here, but I'm going to knit these two together so you have the full recording of what we went over today. So. The first thing I want to talk about is the exam itself. So the exam you'll see is going to be on Western Online. Ultimately, you have a very comprehensive review guide that is available on Western Online. It is under resources and you'll see the study guide there. Make sure that you go through that study guide and really map up all the different things. If you've been keeping track of the refrigerator door items I've told you about all during this unit, they should match up very nicely with what is listed there on that document. And so make sure that you put together a really good guide for yourself to study off of. Also, it is going to be an online exam, but you are going to need Respondus browser to do it. If you don't have Respondus browser, once you try to go into the exam, it will prompt you to download it. It basically just makes it so you can only view that browser while you're taking the exam and you can't switch back from page to page. You can also go to one of the computer labs. I believe all of them should have Respondus browser on installed already, so you can just take your exam there. Knowing that this is going to be online in this way, we know it's going to be open book, open notes. The idea here is not that you can just look everything up because you won't have time to do that. It is still going to be like a timed exam. You have 50 questions total. So the idea here is that, yeah, you're going to have some ability to maybe look up a question or two, but if you don't know where to look for it or what to look for, you're not going to do well overall. And so make sure that you study just as you would if it was not kind of an open note, open book assessment, because again, you're not going to have time to look everything up. So you just want to use that if there's just something that you can't quite remember and you can go back and look it up real quick. Again, yeah, okay, there's 50 questions. I've talked about the Respondus browser, so I think that kind of covers that. I did leave the assessment open through Monday evening, so this is just to make sure I give you plenty of time. If you've got any questions for me, that you have time to let me know. I know that this is not the most ideal situation, and I appreciate you being very flexible and working on it this way, but I don't have very much material left to cover, and I just want to make sure that we stay on track because I think that's going to be best for us overall. So again, you'll have all the way through Monday to take this whenever it works best in your schedule. Please just let me know if you have any questions, and I'll make sure that I address any of those in advance of you taking the exam there. Okay, so with that, let me go ahead and start. So we've already started the human resource chapter. We talked about some different laws that kind of go into what human resource managers need to be considering. So, for instance, the American with Disabilities Amendments Act covers things like epilepsy, autism, and diabetes. So we're going to kind of protect people that have those things, or heart disease, cancer. All those things can kind of go into that as well. And so we want to make sure that we protect individuals that way, and this law was put into place to do so. We talked about the other day the different logical parts of job analysis for sales positions, and so basically, just going and reviewing what current sales reps need to be successful, and so that's pretty easy, and that is definitely what you're going to want to think of in terms of trying to come up with a job analysis if you need to go out and hire new sales positions. Knowing what your current sales people are doing and what the skill set needs to be would be beneficial. And so doing that due diligence within the organization is going to help you out a ton. There's some different ways that we can try to hire people for our organization. And so you can look at internal and external resources. External resources would maybe be people who don't currently work for the company. Maybe they work for a competitor, but people that you bring in that have the skill sets that you need to fill slots in your job. Internal could be something like a promotion or a transfer, and basically these are people that already work for the organization that are internal resources that could be put into those slots. And so that's kind of the difference between an internal and an external resource in terms of human resource management and when they're trying to recruit people to fill positions. Um, Something we need to talk about in terms of filling those slots. So part of doing an interview is just as much about learning what skill sets that a person possesses, like how they might go about solving certain problems, what their experience levels are, and all those things. But it also entails getting to know each other. So it gives the opportunity for the people who are doing the interviews to get a feel for the person, and also the individual to get a feel for the company. Are you a good fit? The thing about not being a good fit within the organization is if you're not happy, you're probably going to leave pretty quickly. And from an employer standpoint, if you know that you hire people in that aren't going to fit well with the leadership styles or the cultural styles of the organization, they're probably going to be looking to find another job. And so that's not good. That's going to cost a business additional money that they wouldn't want to spend on things like training and even finding those employees. And so making sure that you are hiring people that are going to be a good fit is important. And as an employee, being able to identify, like, I think I'd be a good fit to this organization, or that's not exactly my style, that's going to be important too to, you know, your job satisfaction and whether or not you want to work there a long time. Okay, so around the winter time, like around right now, we might see some job listings for UPS or organizations that are looking for what's called contingent workers. And those workers are not people who are going to work at the organization long term. They're just going to work there whenever the influx of work is higher. So around Christmas time, UPS is doing a lot more deliveries. Maybe department stores have a lot more traffic and need more people to check out or stock shelves, things like that. And so they're hiring what's called contingent workers in order to do that. Maybe some of you have worked those jobs already in your job experience. But basically, these people aren't regular full-time employees. They just need them season to season, and it can adjust. Those of you that have ever worked at like a nursery, like during the summertime, and they don't need those same workers during the winter, that would also be an example of a contingent worker. So having a mentor in an organization can be really beneficial. Hopefully your organization is going to help connect you with a mentor, but that doesn't always happen. And so in my own experience right now, I have a unique situation going on where we just hired a new accounting faculty member, but she finished her DBA. So she is actually a mentor to me, but from the organization standpoint, I've sort of been a mentor to her because even though we are in different departments, the departments are similar, and I can help her answer questions, figure out like where to, how to go about certain things, where to get information, how to get things done, different programs that the university uses that we would both use. I can help her on a lot of those things. So we kind of have a unique situation where we mentor each other depending on what the topic is. But ideally, when you get into a work situation, being able to identify a member or mentor, excuse me, whether it's somebody that they assign you or somebody that you kind of just, gradually, make a relationship with, can be super beneficial. Something else that we want to talk about is job rotation. Job rotation can be really beneficial, especially if you are like in an internship or something like that, because you can learn about the different parts of the company and the different feel for even the culture within those little organizational departments. So for instance, when I did an internship at Walt Disney World in horticulture, I worked at several different resorts there. They had the Polynesian Resort, the Contemporary Resort, there's like I forget what it's called, like the Woodland Lodge or something like that, but there's several different places that you can stay, different hotel resorts right there on Walt Disney World's compound. And they utilize plants in really unique ways to try to carry out the theme of that resort. So again, it's contemporary, everything's very contemporary. And the types of bushes they use, everything's trimmed very square or like round or different things, very contemporary type of design. versus the Polynesian resort, which is a like kind of a Hawaiian themed resort, is going to have more tropical type plants. And so being able to work at those different, rotating around at those different ones, it was really interesting to me because I could not only get to know the different people and the different organizational cultures, just like within those little units, the employees, they had their own culture in those different areas, but also learn about the different jobs that were available there. So that way, if I was ever going to go back and work in one of those positions or potentially somewhere else, I would know what I enjoyed or what kind of culture I enjoyed like working in, or what type of plants I enjoyed working with. And so you can do that kind of same thing. Sometimes they even do have that you do that uh, once you go out into the workforce and get a job, but a lot of times it does happen in an intern situation as well, where you are just trying to learn about the organization so you know where you'd be a good fit eventually. Okay, so performance appraisals, a 360-degree review. This is actually something that should be used more often than probably what it is. But this is basically when you are having your performance appraisal, instead of your boss being the only person that reviews you, you are also reviewed by anybody that you can come into contact with. So it might be customers, it might be your coworkers, in addition to management. And so at Western, I get evaluations from students, and that goes into what my boss's overall evaluation of me is going to be, but he's getting direct feedback from students on that. And if we wanted to make it 360, they would have people like on the different committees I work on, and my other like colleagues that I work closely with. They would have those people evaluate me as well, and so that's called a 360 review or performance appraisal. I know I am moving really fast through this, so if you have questions, definitely make sure to be jotting those down, and you can message me later on them. About halfway through that last question, I realized I'd forgotten to start the video, so I just started videoing this, but it is being videoed now, and I'll make sure to make up that other end, and we'll put it up there for you to review in case you missed something. A cafeteria-style fringe benefits plan. This is kind of cool because that allows workers to choose the benefits they want up to a certain dollar amount. So, some people need vision. Some people want dental. Some people want, like different types of things. But maybe you don't want all those things. And instead of trying to have this holistic, like everybody pays for everything approach, they're saying, okay, you get this up to a certain dollar amount, and you as the individual get to customize that for what you want. And so if you're somebody like maybe your brother's a dentist and you don't have to pay for dental, I don't know. Or maybe you don't have vision issues, so you don't want to pay for the vision plan, but you'd rather have other types of benefits instead. You can choose those, and so that's called the cafeteria style benefit plan. It's pretty cool. A compressed work week. So have any of you ever heard of somebody like a nurse that works like 4 days a week but still gets 40 hours in? Or they might work 3 days a week and 3.5, whatever. That is a compressed work week. So they are still working the same number of hours, but they are doing it in a shorter period of time. I love the idea of a compressed work week personally, because I would much rather work 12 hours and just be there and total game on for several days, and then like have more time off around the weekend or something like that. And so that's a preference, though. Not only everybody wants to do that. It doesn't work for everybody during every season of life. If you get to the point where you have children or other responsibilities, maybe you need to be off work more than that. But that is what that is. And to me, I enjoy that. And when I come into work, I usually do work really long periods of time if I can. Okay, that is all for Chapter 11. So that kind of wraps up Chapter 11, and then we have 10 questions from Chapter 12, which is about unions. So anybody remember in your book what they were talking about, like what started the union movement? What spurred the union movement? It was a big revolution. Which one?
Oh, in the industry.
Yep, industrial. Yep, the Industrial Revolution. And so, we knew that some things needed to be done because some unfair things were happening, and so workers were able to kind of unify and negotiate certain things. Um, know what kind of caused the union movement. Like, make sure you kind of go back and review around that, because it kind of the next question sort of feeds on that same thing. Do you know? Okay, so 50% of union workers work for what?
Government businesses.
The government. Yeah. So over 50% of unionized workers work for the government. So we could have this conversation at a different day if you're interested. But WIU, all of the instructors and professors are covered under a union, and so we're all a part of the collective bargaining agreement, which is another question that's coming on down here, which is when like unions and representatives of management, so like the university, and like this just happened last year, we had to renegotiate a new contract. So everybody gets together. That's the collective bargaining. And so I just got my new union, like my new agreement, my collective bargaining agreement, which is the agreement they came to, like what everybody agreed to, and like how much we were going to get paid, how much time off, benefits, like all that stuff is in there. Like what is required of me as an instructor at this level, all those things are in there. But yeah, most of them are employed by governments. And so then again, that collective bargaining is just that negotiated contract. Okay, so there's some, we've negotiated a lot of things in the workforce about, what types of benefits that we want and things like that. And kind of a wave of the future, things that are going to be looked at more closely, especially in the United States, is going to be arranging care for assistance for children and elders. So we know that that's kind of a benefit that people want, and as companies are trying to be competitive and offer something more than, the guy down the road that they're competing against, they can offer workers different types of benefits. And so, especially as our parents age, and we know that they're going to need assistance, and like care facilities are really expensive. And a lot of the reason that baby boomers are still working is a lot of them are at fear that they're going to outlive their retirement plans. So they're still working because they don't want to run out of money someday and not have money to be able to take care of themselves eventually, and so they work longer. But anyway, so those care assistants for both elders and children is super important. Did you guys hear the semi go by that just honked? Said a semi honk going by my house.
My cat likes the sound of your voice, so she came over.
What is that? Hold on. Okay, so shop stewards. Shop stewards are union officials who work permanently in an organization and represent employees' interests on a daily basis. So if you look at figure 12.5 in the text, it shows the first step for an employee who wants to file a grievance to the contract shop steward. So the shop steward is somebody that works there, but it's like your go-to if you have a problem. So they're kind of attached to the union. They're the ones that are kind of organizing what's going on. And if you are going to, if you have an issue for some reason, you would go to your shop steward. And so when we're talking about unions, that's kind of what they're referring to. And I think that is my last, hold on. Two more. Okay, so strike breakers. So there's a couple different tactics. Let me double check. Okay, so workers sometimes go on strike, and management a lot of times is compelled to keep businesses running. So they're like, well, you're going to go strike, but we can't stop production. And so they might try to, hire somebody to that would essentially cross the strike the line and go in and work anyway. And two tactics that management use to deal with consequences of a strike are to seek a court injunction, asking for legal system to demand the workers return to work. So they might try to say, hey, we need these workers back, and try to get the court to make them do so. Or they might hire strike breakers, which is bring in temporary employees that will work in place of the striking workers. So that's what a strike breaker is. You may have heard them called other things by if you know people that have worked in a union environment. They've got to cross that picket line, and that choice can be really intimidating, because if you're striking because you're angry, because you think your employers aren't doing the right thing, and you're trying to, like, your power is the fact that you're keeping them from keeping, you know, the kind of the wheels rolling in the organization, and they hire somebody else to come price, you're probably going to like call them names and tell them to leave and try to dissuade them from coming in. And so that's what a strike breaker is, somebody that would come in and do that.